Almost 110 years ago, a war that forever changed the borders of not only countries, but also the borders of mankind occurred. 20 million people died, and 21 million more were wounded in the war that started on the 28th of July 1914, better known as World War I. Let's learn about how this terrible conflict started and who was to blame. Don't forget to subscribe to ByteNotes to continue learning, and let's hop into the video. Many of you might say World War I started because one man on the street killed another man who was in a car. If that was the only cause, wars would be declared on a daily basis. The real reasons are far more complicated, but the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, initiated by Gavrilo Princip, was just an excuse Austro-Hungary used to begin fulfilling their strategic goals. In the 19th century, most of the Balkan population was under the control of either Austro-Hungary or Turkey. The Serbians, the Greeks, and the Bulgarians were oppressed by either an Islamic or a Catholic leader. Oppressed people across the Balkans wanted to free themselves from these leaders, and soon enough, Serbia, Montenegro, Greece, and later Bulgaria secured themselves with the title of independent countries and with joint forces headed into Turkey to free the Christians from the oppressive Turkish ruler. This was done successfully, and Christians had to no longer worry about Turkey. But Bulgaria wanted more, so they tried to get an area of Macedonian land, a country who they were formerly allied with. However, that didn't go as they planned, so Bulgaria ended up losing territory from all sides. On the other hand, Austro-Hungary, an already unstable country due to the large proportion of the population not being able to even understand each other, tried to get their hands on Bosnia, a multi-ethnic country. The Serbs didn't like this due to the fact that quite a lot of Serbs lived in Bosnia, and especially because the Serbs had a plan to occupy Bosnia. With this move, Austro-Hungary not only provoked the Serbs, but also other Slavic countries because no one believed in Austro-Hungarian power any longer by this point. Separatist movements such as Young Bosnia were more and more present, and their main goal was to expand the Serbian territory in order to create the Serbian dream, Greater Serbia. This involves the Serbian nationalist and irredentist ideology of creating a Serb state that would incorporate all regions of traditional significance to Serbs. In the meantime, relations between Vienna and Belgrade were only getting worse, especially after the May coup in 1903, when the Serbian king Alexander Obrenović and his consort Queen Draga were assassinated, resulting in the comeback of the Karađorđević dynasty. This made Vienna to Belgrade relations worse, because the Obrenović family was mostly pro-Austrian, and their hereditary enemies, the Karađorđević family, were mostly pro-Russian. However, Austro-Hungarian goals remained the same, to acquire as much Balkan territory as they could, in which Bosnia and Sandjak were the main territorial goals they wanted to acquire. And that's what they did, or at least tried to do, because is there anything better to do while you're an unstable, multi-ethnic country whose people don't even speak the same languages? Then, in 1908, Vienna moved on to Bosnia, while also waging a trading war with Serbia. At this point, Serbia had no other choice than to strengthen their relations with France, and in all that chaos, Serbia also successfully managed to strengthen their economy and army. Austro-Hungary obviously didn't like this, so they had to find an excuse to try and damage Belgrade. One thing I didn't mention is that the Balkan War raged in order to make Turkey retreat from the Balkans. Serbia acquired a nice portion of Albanian land, which gave them an immensely good strategic position since they now had access to the Adriatic Sea. In 1913, just a year before the war started, Austro-Hungary threatened Serbia with war, so Serbia had to give Albania their land back. Everyone except Germany didn't really like Austro-Hungary and wouldn't let them expand to the south like that without a good reason. So now, the Austro-Hungarians were wondering how to occupy Serbia without looking like an aggressor, not knowing they'd soon have the perfect excuse. Before we get to the main event everyone knows as the thing that started World War I, we must understand one more thing: coalitions. For many years, Europe was seen as a stable and calm continent, even though the word calm wasn't in the European vocabulary until World War II. And with the Ukraine-Russia war that's still ongoing, it looks like Europe still doesn't know what peace really is. By creating the new countries of Germany and Italy in the 1870s, the balance of power in Europe had drastically changed. For example, the young population of Germany, inspired by powerful nationalism, became so superior in just a few decades that France, Russia, and Great Britain had to look at her with caution. Some even saw Germany as the strongest continental power since they had destroyed France in 1871. So, this economically and militarily strong Germany wanted to expand to other continents, but since all African territories were already occupied, it was impossible to do so. Well, almost impossible. They managed to occupy some territories in Africa and Asia, but that wasn't enough. Because of this, the Concert of Europe was made, and no, not a music concert, but a general agreement among the great powers of 19th century Europe to maintain the European balance of power and political boundaries. This agreement did its job until 1914, but what's significant is that Germany became stronger and stronger. Because of this, paranoia kicked in among Russia, Britain, and especially in France. It was so strong that these three countries became allies and in 1907 formed a well-known alliance called the Triple Entente. Decades before this, Austro-Hungary formed an alliance with Germany called the Triple Alliance, an alliance which Italy joined too but later decided to switch sides. The Triple Entente was a powerful counterweight to the Triple Alliance. The goal of Germany and Austro-Hungary was to connect Baghdad, a city rich in oil, with Berlin. At that point, Baghdad belonged to the Ottoman Empire, with whom both these countries built diplomatic relations with because they both had the same enemy, Russia. They also had the same enemy in the Balkans, which was Serbia. So have a guess which Balkan country Germany and Austro-Hungary were unable to build a railway system through that would connect Baghdad to Berlin. At this point, Germany and Austro-Hungary also became paranoid. But why? Well, because now they were surrounded by three continental powers, and all three of them were cooperating against them. France wanted to get back territories they previously lost in the 1870s and are now under the control of Germany. Russia wanted to be taken seriously once again after losing a war against Japan, and aside from that, Slavic people who previously adored Russia were slowly starting to hate it because it let Austro-Hungary occupy Bosnia. Russia was now especially scared of the friendship between Germany, Austro-Hungary, and Turkey because these three countries could easily block Russia's trading routes. The Russian Empire now needed a win really badly in order to brighten its name and be taken seriously. Their first move was the promise they made to Serbia to protect them in case of a war. In the event of a war, Serbia would be protected by Russia. Russia is allied with France and Great Britain, Germany is allied with Austro-Hungary, and both countries have great relations with Turkey. Germany, Austro-Hungary, and Turkey all can't stand Serbia, nor Russia, nor France, nor Great Britain. At this point, you can feel the paranoia in the air, and every single one of these countries were expecting to be attacked at any moment. Some countries even wanted to attack, right, Austro-Hungary? If only they had a good excuse to do so. And then the 28th of June 1914 came. Two bullets that took millions of lives and ended 4 empires. So what really happened on that day? Well, the Austro-Hungarian heir presumptive Franz Ferdinand decided to visit Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia, whilst wearing a smile on his face. The 28th of June was also known as the day of the Battle of Kosovo, and the Serbs took this as a provocation. Members of Young Bosnia, which was a separatist and revolutionary movement, knew that Franz Ferdinand would be visiting Sarajevo on that day. After a series of unexpected events, the car Franz Ferdinand was inside of stopped in front of Gavrilo Princip, a 19-year-old Serb who was a member of Young Bosnia. All of a sudden, Princip pulled out his gun and shot 2 bullets, one at Franz and one at his wife Sophie. Aside from Gavrilo Princip, there were 5 other members of Young Bosnia ready to pull out their guns on Franz Ferdinand. The political objective of the assassination was to free Bosnia and Herzegovina of Austro-Hungarian rule, and to establish a common South Slav state. The assassination team was helped by the Black Hand, a Serbian secret nationalist group, and the biggest support came from Dragutin Dmitrijevic, chief of the military intelligence section of the Serbian General Staff, as well as from Major Vojislav Tankasic and a Serbian intelligence agent, Rade Milobovic. Tankasic provided bombs and pistols to the assassins and trained them. The assassins were also given access to the network of safe houses and agents that Milobovic had used for the infiltration of weapons and operatives into Austro-Hungary. What's more important is that now Vienna has a perfect excuse to declare war on Serbia, guided by the logic that this event would make them look like a victim across Europe. They also thought that they would occupy Serbia so quickly that Russia won't even have time to react, and when they would do so later, it would be too late. This tells us that Austro-Hungary didn't even want to start a world war. They just wanted to occupy Serbia, but I don't know how they didn't see where that would lead. Worst of all, Austro-Hungary wasn't even ready for war. It took them a lot of time to mobilise and coordinate the whole army, especially when you consider that the army consisted of people who spoke at least 10 different languages. Not only that, but they didn't have enough food to feed all of them. Still, believe it or not, that was the least of their problems. Since Austro-Hungary was a dual monarchy country, Vienna wanted to occupy Serbia, but Budapest didn't like the idea of becoming even more of a multi-ethnic country. And while Austro-Hungary was trying to sort out all of their long-neglected problems, Berlin was on fire, because the potential world war was getting delayed and neighbouring countries were starting to understand that this might be more serious than just another conflict in the Balkans. Austro-Hungary sent Serbia an ultimatum on the 23rd of July, which was 4 weeks after the assassination took place. Belgrade had to respond to this ultimatum within 48 hours, and the ultimatum was described as one of the most difficult ultimatums from one country to another in history. The ultimatum consisted of 10 shameful demands that would hurt the integrity of Serbia. Considering that they were facing a much stronger country, Serbia decided to accept all demands except the 6th one. The 6th demand would allow Austro-Hungarian police to walk through the Serbian cities and question anyone they wanted, allegedly so they could find out anything linked to the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. Vienna made this request so difficult on purpose. They wanted it to get declined so they could attack Serbia with an excuse, but Serbia responded professionally, demanding a third-party court, which made them look more diplomatic, which again made Austro-Hungary look bad. However, at this point, the war was unavoidable. Even though Russia tried its best to talk the situation out with Germany, Austro-Hungary decided they wanted a war years ago. Days before Austro-Hungary declared war on Serbia, Serbia evacuated their capital city. They knew what was about to happen. On the 28th of July 1914, Belgrade received a letter from Vienna, which read something like this. Because Serbia didn't accept the ultimatum, it's at war with Austro-Hungary. Short and neat. Not many people could predict that this conflict would pull the whole world into a war that would take millions of lives. Shortly after that, Germany declared war on Russia, Belgium and France. But why Belgium? Belgium was just one of the paths that Germany used to get their military forces into France. Great Britain was still trying to be neutral in this war, but joined in to give some support for Belgium. In the Balkans, Montenegro declared war on Austro-Hungary on the 5th of August. A day later, Austro-Hungary declared war on Russia, and soon, Montenegro and Serbia declared war on Germany. And then on the 12th, Great Britain and France declared war on Austro-Hungary. And that's how, in just 2 weeks, the whole of Europe found itself in a war which is now known as the First World War. By the end of the year 1914, Japan had joined the Triple Entente, whilst the Ottoman Empire had blocked Russian trading paths. Many more countries joined this war later on, including the USA, but most of them joined just to show support so they would benefit after the war was over. If you watched all of this carefully, good job. You now know the true reasons as to why World War I started. Next time someone tells you the war started just because of one guy called Gavrilo Princip, make sure to tell them everything you've learnt today. As always, don't forget to leave a like